In the Zone, Saturdays, 8 to 10 in the morning with David Sinykin, the Sultan of Smug, and NBA champion Trent Tucker, and Greg Popovich occasionally calls in. It's all right, 3-2. It's
I love that,
I love the Ray. You guys know I have all your albums. I mean,
This is awesome.
I text Cinny like during the show when he's talking about things, but it's a really good time of the day for me and a really good day of the week. Saturday, 8 to 10 in the morning. So I have all your albums. And
Thanks, brother.
And you're doing some more. I mean, seriously, are you going to take up residence in Wisconsin with all this Milwaukee radio you've done the last 2 weeks?
It's been fun, yeah. I got the noon to 3 gig today and tomorrow, filling in for Mike Heller. It's kind of nice to have a spot to sort of fill in every now and then. They don't, I guess they don't have a full roster of talent, perhaps, beyond their starters. They don't have a bench. I guess they don't have, kind of like the Nuggets. They don't have much of a bench.
Well, nice of them to believe in the producers.
They're young. They've got young, fresh-faced producers fresh out of college that aren't quite ready for the bit yet. So I'm happy to, hey, it's OTA week for the Pack, so I can talk green and gold to my heart's content the next 3 hours.
What? So I make sure I can. This is in the iHeart family.
Correct.
Yeah, vast and ever expanding iHeart family. It's the home of the Green Bay Packers.
Yes.
It's what's the station?
97.3 The Game.
97.3 The Game. So do I make sure for appointment listening, what time is Double T on to talk about last night's Wolves game?
Tomorrow, I'm gonna pencil him in tomorrow.
What do you mean?
For a little game 2
You just
preview.
stepped in here and said you got 9 segments and no guests.
I have no guests
You got the
today.
professor of hoopology to your left.
Yeah, it's true.
Somebody with whom you're comfortable on Saturdays.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, has an NBA championship ring.
Yes.
Where he won it with MJ. So I don't know, man. I mean,
we'll talk.
I'm representing
If
Double
he
T
wants to
right
stick
here.
around for a while,
Double T's looking at me like, man, I got plans early in the day. Stop going down that road, Paul. I got to run through my forehand.
I got hockey skates to sharpen this afternoon.
Yeah, I got to play tennis and run through my forehand to make sure I get my serve at the apex. Then I have to take care of my skin because my skin's beautiful and it matters to me. And
really
then I
is.
have to sharpen hockey skates, and then I have to go to 19 hocky games.
That's true.
So I apologize
Not a bad
to you
life
for
though.
that.
Not
No,
a bad life.
It's a great life being the professor of hoopology. I'd like to start here. By the way, you're more than welcome to be in co-host mode here, Mr. Sinykin. But with Double T, Trent Tucker, let's begin here because a couple of days ago, Double T's in studio. And drop coverage as defense would go in the NBA. It's just we've heard it a lot in not only in the playoffs, but specifically into the series. Drop coverage. Trent can better explain it than me. We heard it a lot on TV and radio last night. And there was a point where Stan Van Gundy analyzing the game, I mean, he was on the drop coverage and what was not working, and he was right. And then he was like, I'd drop the drop coverage if I were you guys because Luka is one of the best in the history of this game, hitting these little shots the drop provides. So off that, good morning. Do we need to drop the drop? And what does all the drop mean?
Before you answer Double T, let me set the scene last night. Poker night for me, Wednesday night.
Ooh.
Normally, we've got the TV on. And
How's Pepe?
Pepe doesn't play in the poker group.
Okay.
He's my golf buddy.
Yep.
We always have the TV on, but we have music going, right? Mm-hmm. I made the plea before the game last night.
Yeah.
All right, I'm out if we can't listen to the game.
Do you have to play these weak tracks like we do here at KFAN?
No,
sorry.
We go old school. We got the old CD player with the 5 discs that are shuffling songs,
Very nice.
From 70s, a lot of 70s rock there.
Yeah.
So we got I got the sound on so I can at least really watch the game. And it's halftime, so now I'm kind of loaded in on the game, and suddenly my phone rings, and it's Double T. It's the second time I've gotten a halftime call from Double T in the last week. They're rare. They don't happen often. I had to excuse myself from the game because I thought maybe Trent's decibel level might have gone over perhaps what we'd like to have at the poker table. But yes, Double T was all over me and all over the Wolves for the defense they were playing. And I love when I get the halftime call from Trent because I get educated and he gets frustrated that the announcers aren't seeing what he's seeing and aren't educating the fans.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of lucky because I get the Double T halftime call. And I know what I'm supposed to be looking at.
Well, the professor, believe it or not, eventually is going to get to talk here because his opinion matters most.
Correct. I'm done.
But wait a second. Nobody likes talking on the phone. So the fact that you answer the call is elite. Secondly, you got the phone call on dropping the drop or the drop coverage. I got the between segments the other day with him pulling a chair out into the vestibule and setting up where the screener is and giving me a 4-minute professorial a dissertation on how to handle drop coverage
when you get
with
the
a
visual.
chair. I got the visual.
And we got the dry erase board here. He may get up and use it before we're done.
Good morning, Trent.
Good morning, guys. When you play against really good offensive players, and Phoenix and Denver and Dallas, in terms of how they structure their offense, is no different. They rely a lot on the pick and roll. And Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic are two of the best in the game. And if you go into a drop coverage, especially on Luka Doncic, he knows how to keep his defender on his hip. He's never going to let that guy recover to get back in front. And then all of a sudden, he's going to make the little 8 to 10 foot floater.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Rudy decides, or Cat decides that I got to step up. Whether he throws the lob to the back of the rim, the guy has a slam dunk, or somebody now gets out of position and he finds that guy in the corner. There were a few times last night when the Wolves decided to get up on the screen right away. They didn't go into drop coverage. Luka turned the ball over. So if you're going to have a chance to knock off the Dallas Mavericks, you're going to have to bring a defensive game plan that's going to take away that pick and roll action for the Dallas Mavericks. And if you're going to allow them, to have their freedom and the space to get into the lane to make plays time and time again, it's going to put you in a bad situation.
Well, that's beautiful that you've said that. But, you laid out the other day, 9 to noon, how the drop can be effective against the Dallas Mavericks. And now you're just saying if you're going to win, how do we do it? How do you do it?
Well, Luka comes off with this. We call Luka the 3-man. He's a 3 and 5 sets the screen.
Okay.
So the guy who's guarding the 5 guy cannot be off of the 5 guy. He has to be right up on the screen. As soon as Luka comes off, they can trap Luka right away. And the successful trap is that you have to come shoulder to shoulder, almost like forming an L. You don't want to give him any space to have a chance to split.
Well, that drop formed an L last night.
And no doubt about it. And when he has space, you're talking about a highly skilled professional basketball player who's the best at the world at doing what he does. And if you're not willing to take that away from him, he's going to make you pay, especially at a crucial time in the game. So there's no need to panic. And like I texted you last night, PA, and said, I'll see you tomorrow. And
I'm bringing my own chair.
And the mistakes that the Wolves are making are correctable.
Yeah, I thought about that a lot.
And as a head coach, when you know that things can be fixed in the next 24 hours, you still have confidence that your team can win.
Mm-hmm.
So we're playing against two of the best 50 players to ever do it. And that's a challenge, especially for a young team that's at a place they haven't been. When Kyrie sets the tone like he did last night, we can talk about Luka down the stretch because he was brilliant.
Yeah.
But Kyrie set the tone with 24 in the first half and did whatever he wanted. What kind of an answer do the Wolves have for Kyrie? How do they respond in game two?
The same thing. When he comes out the pick and roll, you have to be up on that screen as well. Because why was Jamal Murray so good in Game 7 in the first half? Because he found space. He had time to probe. He could take multiple dribbles. And all of a sudden now, when a good offensive player is allowed to have that type of time and space, he's going to make you pay at some point in time. In the second half, they took that away from Kyrie. He was not as effective offensively in the second half compared to the first half. Mm-hmm. But the positive thing about last night's game, even though the Wolves lost, Kyrie got off to a great start. But at halftime, they still had a 3-point lead. So it's the little things here that they need to clean up, making sure they're on point with their defense and how they're going to play it, and then go from there. You're not going to stop Luka and Kyrie from scoring, but you want to make sure that you don't give them a high volume of shots. And the only way great scorers can score is they have to have good looks at the basket time and time again. Luka will turn the ball over. We've seen him turn the ball over, but you have to take away his space. And if the Wolves are committed to taking away their space, they have a great chance to move on to the Western Conference.
So,
not to the NBA Finals.
Yes, the sequence at the end of the first half where Ant turns it over, instead of holding it with, a 5 or 6 point lead with a chance to go up 8 or 9, throws the ball away. Kyrie gets the and one. It's a 3-point game. The end of the game, the Wolves scored, 2 points in the final 3.5 minutes after the Cat put back that wasn't. The composure thing, the ends of quarters and halves has been a concern off and on throughout the year. Yep. It hasn't been a big deal in the playoffs because the games haven't been that close. But I'm still really concerned about how the way this team closes out halves and games Because if they don't figure that out, as these games get tougher and the opponents are better, the ending doesn't sound real promising to me.
Well, that starts with coaching, because we have to go over these things in practice and knowing what end of quarters, the end of game situation is going to look like. Let's say if we don't have any timeouts at the end of game type situation and you're down by 2 with 15 seconds to go. If you practice that situation in practice, all of a sudden now the players know how to execute. At some point in time, you have to have a game plan, understanding that we have gone over these situations before, so that now when we get into these moments, we're able to execute and get the job done.
All right. After the game last night, I'd say it was, what time did you text me? About 11 and change last night. Nordo sends me a text about some things popping into his head, about some questions to ask tomorrow about defending Kyrie in the flow of the game. I know the game, but I'm very novice in philosophy and aspects of defense. What time did we book the professor? Well, here he is. So some of these philosophical queries you had to present for the In the Zone tandem. This is the best basketball analysis you'll ever hear. We have the professor in studio. What were some of those questions?
Well, I mean, it all starts with one that's a baseline to branch off from is what allows Kyrie. Now I've said it twice today. He's a heat-seeking missile to the hoop, and he is savvy, and he is a playmaker, a shot maker, all of those things. But he had it anytime and every time he wanted throughout the first half. And fatigue's been a part of the conversation this morning. And a tough 7-game series, all of that, getting used to a new team, new series, etc. But what needs to change in game 2 and beyond to specifically eliminate his ability to get to the hoop? He draws contact. He will get the whistles and just run up the points and run up and really just force and assert all the action as he did, and maybe in some ways we hope Ant could do, but it was Kyrie. How the heck do we defend this freaking guy in game 2 moving forward? So
he's unbelievable.
All my stupid questions are right there. How do we defend this freaking guy and let whatever happened to last night never happen again in this series?
All those are good questions. But Dave and I were talking about this, I think, we did the podcast the other day. I said, this is not about an individual matchup. You have to respect these guys who you're playing against. They are too good offensively for you to shut them down in a one-on-one type situation. The way you're going to beat the Dallas Mavericks and slow them down, you have to have a team concept of what you're doing on the defensive end. And everybody have to understand that these are the points where I need to be. These are the things that I need to execute to take away 2 highly skilled offensive players. Nobody in the league, I don't care how great you are on the defensive end, you are not going to guard Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic by yourself time and time again. They're too good for that. So let's put the ego to the side. So as a head coach, I got to walk into this film room before game number 1 and understand how are we going to slow them down. We're not going to stop them from scoring, but I can't let them be the guys that make the difference on whether we win or lose. You never want the best players to decide the outcome of the game on the offensive end.
Well, the last 2 we've lost to Dallas, they combined for 69, then they went for 66 in this one. So, I mean, it's as Jackson Sinykin would say, it's becoming a thing. It's a common thread, you know what I mean?
And what the Wolves did last night, they played defense in this playoff game like they played during the regular season. So the Wolves players now have to understand, how did we get here? What did we do? We lost 3 straight games to the Phoenix Suns, right? What did we do differently in the playoffs? When they ran that pick and roll, we were up on that pick and roll. We didn't give Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and Bradley Beal the space at playoff time that we gave them during the regular season. When we turned Jamal Murray over in game number 7, coming down the stretch, where was Mike Conley at? When he came off that pick and roll, he was right there to steal that basketball. That led to Anthony Edwards' 3-point shot to close the deal. Team defense. Yeah. That's how you're going to win. So you got to take certain things away here from here and there. And the players all have to understand the Dallas Mavericks offensive players are no different than the two teams you just placed. They are a heavy pick and roll basketball team.
Yeah.
And when they are able to find space, the Dallas Mavericks should never dominate the points in the paint, because they don't have inside guys who you can throw the ball to and say, go make your own play. Those guys become valuable when Luka and Kyrie are in the lane.
Pecan.
So as part of that, I'm thinking about last series, and I'm turning it back on the Wolves a bit. I thought the Nuggets were really effective at times, doubling Anthony Edwards, and it'd be anytime he was trying to find his way to the hoop, you'd see kind of a switch or a second guy pull off of his defender and force Anthony either to pass, maybe take a mid-range, or just kind of bail out and head back to the perimeter. Is there something in that realm that could be used in our favor now battling Kyrie and Luka?
So, and that's a great question to ask, because, I was talking to some buddies last night after the game was over. Okay, when Anthony Edwards comes off the pick and roll, who sets the pick and roll? Who sets the pick for the Wolves? Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
So where's Rudy Gobert, man, at?
Was you what?
Where's the guy who was guarding Rudy
he's going to
Gobert?
roll to the basket.
Where is he at? He's right there on top of that screen.
Yeah.
So Anthony Edwards has no room and no space to make a move, because the guy who's setting the screen at 25 feet is a non-offensive player. So the Dallas Mavericks have the same things. They have a non-offensive player who's setting the screen. So it's much easier now for the big guy to be up on the screen to double-team Luka or Kyrie when they come off and force him to pass the ball to a guy who can't make a play from 28 feet. So if Anthony Edwards can't find space because the guy who's setting the screen is a non-offensive player, that's going to play into the hands of what the Dallas Mavericks is doing on the defensive end.
Did you guys, either of you guys, or maybe you at the free house? It's Maite just letting it all hang out. The beginning of the halftime show. Did any of you happen to see that last night? TNT.
I was dealing Texas Hold'em, so no, I did not.
I went and watched the Panthers and the Rangers.
Okay.
Of course you did. Who are you, really?
By the way, how about your Panthers? Holy cow, with that little 3-0 thing last night. All right, 3-2. Ernie Johnson, beloved EJ, clearly was not happy with the halftime show last night. I don't know. I mean, it was who does This Is How We Do It.
Montel Jordan.
Well, Montel Jordan, I guess, was in the house.
Okay.
And you could hear, I mean, if they opened the doors at Target Center, you could have heard, This Is How We Do It, probably all the way up to Fridley. It was loud. Nice. And like, Ernie was melting a little bit. Old people were starting to melt a little bit. Like he couldn't get his bearings because it was so loud. And then he was ripping how loud it was. And you hear him try to talk over it and everything. So Ernie was not happy.
I wonder if they knew that was happening. Like, did they know there was a big-time music act happening when they were doing their show? Because that seems like you'd give TNT some space for 5 minutes to do their thing.
Good point.
And then let them, but I don't know.
Yeah.
What
do I look like? Chief Operating Officer Ryan Tanke? I have no idea.
I find it weird that Draymond Green's part of the crew right now. Do you guys think it's like a middle finger at the NBA? Like, as much as they hate Draymond for all of his shenanigans, TNT's out after next season.
Yeah,
I feel like they're just kind of
TNT's out after next season.
Yeah.
Wow,
it's an NBC bit now.
Well, see, because Adam Silver put Draymond under his wing when Draymond's having all the problems. He was threatening to quit. Adam flew him into New Jersey and they hung out for a day or something, and Dre thanked him.
His behavior's not been great this season.
His takes mostly suck.
Yeah, well, there's no reason. They have the best chemistry of any studio show in any sport ever. Why do you need to implant Draymond Green? I really think it's a middle finger. You don't want us anymore?
Elite point.
Here's Draymond.
There's your open for the Heller.
Deal with him.
Yeah.
Let me write that down.
Next you can talk about Charles Barkley throwing a guy out of a Milwaukee bar 22 years ago.
Did Charles
was glass.
He was at Manny's last night.
Oh, he was?
I read that he only orders his steaks well done. Do you think Manny's would even prepare a well done steak? I mean, that's cruel and unusual punishment to the chef. Yeah,
I'm the same way.
With a glass bottle of ketchup.
Well?
No,
not. Excuse me,
not
well
medium,
done. So there's no pink.
Yeah,
well done.
It takes all the flavor out.
Butterfly it, and well done steak.
I understand. Well,
Well, I don't like it like bleeding rare, but you got to have some pink and some flavor, my man.
Gentlemen, now we have the professor, okay, with a ring.
Yeah.
We have the Sultan, who's becoming a Milwaukee radio star. Then you got God's cartoon character, me. But over there, you have a grilling snob. Okay, Traeger this, brisket that. It's one of his it's maybe his number one hobby. It's a big time, and Nordo's very good at it. So I mean, all this talk over here about Barkley with a well steak and then double T's, like, oh yeah, I do that too.
Put ketchup on it too, double T.
If double T comes over to my house, I'll cook him a well done steak. But otherwise,
I come over and we can talk wolves.
Yeah, absolutely. And just let me get a pen and a pad so I can take notes.
It's a tough loss last night. Mm-hmm. But as an ex-player in this switch, I'm not in a panic mode because.
Well, you played with Michael Jordan. Why would you be?
The Mavericks had to make a play here or there, even though I felt like the defense was not where it needed to be to win the game.
Yeah.
And so,
well, in the first half, it pissed me off, the defense.
And so, let's take a look at our best player over the last 4 games. 3 out of the last 4 games, I'm going back to the Nuggets series.
You talking Jaden McDaniels now?
I'm talking, yeah.
Oh, you mean slow-mo in that 11 in the first half?
So let's go to game 5 in Denver. Mm-hmm. Anthony Edwards is 5 for 15. The Wolves lose. Comes home for game 6. He has a really good game. Wolves win game 6. They blow him out. You go to game 7, 6 for 24. His teammates bailed him out. He made some good plays coming down the stretch. Game 1 last night was his 6 for 16. So now that his teammates are able to step up and deliver, but at this time of the year, you can't depend on your teammates winning games for you all the time. So that's what now it is time for Anthony Edwards to become a little bit more consistent and efficiently on the offensive end. Because if he can get back to doing the things that we saw him do against the Phoenix Suns and the first part against the Denver Nuggets, then the Wolves should be okay.
The organic nature and analysis of NBA class is in session. The professor of hoopology is on lead vocals. David Sinykin's here, and I'm Paul Allen. And here comes the producer of 9 to Noon, Nordo, to give some cash away.
The Fan, along with BigDeck.com, want to give you a chance to put $1,000 in your hand with the National Cash Contest. Go to KFAN.com and enter the keyword Bills. You might win $1,000 with the keyword Bills at KFAN.com. Man. Welcome back. Couple of segments to go, 9 to noon. And on a Thursday morning, it is feeling a lot like a Saturday in the zone style. In the zones, Dave Sinykin, Double T, Trent Tucker in studio with us. So after all of that from game 1 into game 2 tomorrow, is there any credence? You can tell me if I'm stupid in thinking this, but in some ways it feels like there's a bit of a sacrificing game 1 and people blaming fatigue or other things. This is in some ways a very different matchup or incarnation of a matchup than what they saw against the Denver Nuggets. But ultimately, you lose game 1, take a freaking breath, and now we know. Now we learn from last night. Now we get back to seeing that defense that we saw from this team throughout the playoffs. That now maybe we see those points in the paint that we haven't seen during a few losses over the last week and a half. Is it easy to just write this one off as a sacrifice to a grander goal of housing the Mavs in this series?
Well, you don't just write it off, you learn from it. And then you go back and take a look at the film and say, okay, where did we break down at here or there? It took P.J. Washington to make a big shot at the end of the game to secure the win for the Dallas Mavericks. So we know that there are some things that we can do against this team, that can work for us. So if I'm in that film room, I'm looking at the little small details here or there where we can get better at to give ourselves a much better chance to get over the hump.
T, you were talking about Ant before we went to break, and I'm sure a lot of fans listening and watching the game last night were kind of scratching their heads a lot in the second half, where whether it's fatigue or whether it's frustration, Ant was not involved offensively like we're used to. He's maybe initiating, and then he's making a pass, and he's standing in the corner and just standing there. And is it mental fatigue after the 7 games, the 3 days of you're the greatest thing ever, you're the next MJ? how do you, as a fan, watch Ant? Look, Ant had 11 rebounds. He had 8 assists. He impacted the game in other ways. But in a close game where you relied on McDaniels and Anderson to kind of bail you out in the first half, they needed him to assert himself in the second half. He didn't have the juice. So is there concern? It's not like he's going to get 3 days off again. I mean, he's got to play tomorrow night, and this is a must-win. So how concerned should we be about Ant's 6 for 16 coming off the 6 for 24? It's been a couple big games now where we have not seen Ant doing Ant things.
Well, you have a small concern because, like I mentioned, over the last 4 games, 3 of those last 4 games, we haven't seen the execution and the efficiency on the offensive end from Anthony Edwards that we've seen throughout the season and so far into the playoffs. And just by playing with a guy like Michael Jordan, every now and then we all know that they can have an off game. And his teammates are going to step up and provide the support and get him over the hump like they did in game number 7 against the Denver Nuggets for Anthony Edwards. But then, Michael Jordan would come into the locker room the next day and say, you know what? I owe you guys one. Thanks for bailing me out.
Wow.
And I think it's time for Anthony Edwards to walk into the locker room and tell his teammates, thanks for bailing me out. I owe you guys one. Or 3.
Beautiful how Old Head laid that out. Let me not forget this because Johnny Ojampa, dear friend of mine, gets basketball. He texted me asking the professor's time. Playing more zone defense against this specific Mavericks team. What do you think?
I don't think it's a good thing because those 2 guys can stretch that zone defense out. See, and
shoot over it.
And all of a sudden now, in the zone defense is a poor rebounding defense.
Right.
Because you're not guarding the man. You're not back to your fundamentals of blocking out. You're guarding the space. Mm-hmm. And when you have athletic guys who crash the rim, now they get a running start to get to those open spots to keep that ball alive to get second and third chances.
And see, that's one of the conundrums from what was just a fascinating game last night. I mean, favorite team lost. I really, really enjoyed the game, man. I thought it was just a fun game to watch with superstars being superstars, and it was pretty close a majority of the way. But it's like, we can – the Wolves were making decisions and having things go against them. We're used to them doing, let's say, 8 out of 10 times. Like, just think that Conley lobbed to Gobert near the end of the game. I mean, it wasn't there. He did it. Conley's super smart. Probably won't do it again. But then, so, like, if you expect some things to get buttoned down, which we do, cool. Dallas shot 6 of 25 from 3. Maybe it's not going to be a 50% thing, but it's probably going to be better than that. So, I mean, like, Dallas has a right to improve on things, too.
Well, you want, the guys who are not normally your big offensive guys taking those shots. Mm-hmm. If P.J. Washington goes out and gets 40, we go home.
Derrick Jones Jr.
We go home.
Yeah.
We go home. But I cannot be in a position time and time again where I'm allowing Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic to decide the game at the end.
Yeah, great point. Lastly, I'm not a fan of 49 three-pointers for the Wolves.
Thank you.
Last night.
I'm
not.
with you.
Well, because it just quickly, it's Dallas came out running, let's run with the Wolves, let's make a racehorse basketball. Why? Because we think you're going to get tired from that 7-gamer against Jokic, and you're coming back from altitude. You got 1 fewer day to get ready for it than us, so we're going to go. And if you shoot, you're not going to shoot 50% or 45% probably on 49 threes. They shot like 36. And it got worse as the game went on. Why? Because they got tired. But you know better than anybody, man. I mean, you were a three-point wizard, but you didn't hit them all. 3-point misses are long rebounds.
True.
So when they get the rebound, there they go.
It's a run out.
It's a run out. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't like it, man. It's out of character for us.
Well, and that's as a head coach, when you call a timeout, you say, okay, we have a play we can go to now that's going to get us a good shot or have a chance to get us to the free throw line. So who's my best inside player? We have to be able to run a play now for Karl Anthony Towns.
Right.
Get him on the inside,
Slow
get him
that
going
thing
to the
down.
back. He has to become a run stopper.
Love it.
Now, one thing I would like to see the Wolves do on the offensive end in terms of change with Anthony Edwards in the pick and roll. I know they run the pick and roll with either 1, 5, 2, and 5. Run the pick and roll between Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah.
Because now you put 2 offensive players
Love it.
in the pick and roll. Now Dallas is going to have to make a decision. Because if they trap Anthony Edwards. But now the bailout guy is an offensive player that can make a play from 20 feet. Mm-hmm. So when he goes downhill, now we're working on 4 against 3. And Karl Anthony Towns has good vision and he's a good passer. And he has shown that now he can make the right play at the right time.
To that point, everybody loves to rip Rudy. He was a +10 when he was out there last night. But does it make sense maybe to lessen his minutes a bit, put Nas out there so you do have another option on the pick and roll with an offensive-minded player? Yes, you sacrifice on defense, but to maybe frustrate them defensively, run Cat up there, run Nas up there, try different actions, and maybe watch Rudy's minutes a bit.
Well, the one thing, you don't want to break down your rotation, so you want to make sure that you got those guys coming off the bench who are very comfortable doing their jobs in that situation. You don't want to change too much because within your starting 5, you can make adjustments. So let's say now all of a sudden now you run Karl Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards in the pick and roll. They decide to trap, Ant. Ant makes the pass to Karl. Karl doesn't like the 3. He can put it down. What's going to happen to the big guy guarding Rudy? He's got to step up. What's open? The lob pass. If they collapse from the wing, now you can find the outside shooters because now they have time to get their feet set to get a good look at the basket. So I believe one of the things the Wolves can do offensively to kind of offset what Dallas is doing in the pick and roll when Rudy Gobert sets the pick, put an offensive guy in that situation and force them to see how they're going to defend this because now the Wolves can gain that advantage on the offensive end.
David, are you staying in town for Memorial Day weekend?
I am. Twins' birthday on Sunday, so a big family weekend.
Oh, that's great. That's the first part was really all 9 to noon needed because that's just great news in that we at the Fan family are going to be working on Memorial Day because the Wolves play the night before, which means can't wait to see you guys back here Monday at 11 a.m. What do you think? In the zone, Monday, 11 a.m., do I got a shot?
If you want us.
I got a shot? I love this. And so did Nordo.
I'm game.
I don't know what was better, that 43 minutes of basketball conversation we just had or Robert Tonyan stroking the post against his former team.
I always love that one.
The Green Bay Packers. What do you think of that? Or Bobby Tonyan, though.
Every week, it's another former Packer finding his way west to try to resurrect his career in Minnesota.
So you're saying you don't miss Aaron Jones?
I do. Well, I love Aaron Jones.
You love Aaron Jones.
That's one of my all-time favorite players. Yes, I will be cheering for him. I'll pick my spots, but I will be cheering for him.
I appreciate you guys. I'll text you over the weekend, all right?
Sounds good.
Thanks, man.
Professor, you're the bomb. Thank you very much. That's Trent Tucker and David Sinykin in the zone. Nordo and I put a wrap on it after this. Well, the Dallas market embarrassment of riches continues. Mavericks up 1-0 in the Western Conference Finals. Dallas Stars taking on Edmonton this evening in the Western Conference Final to get to the Stanley Cup Finals. Mavericks trying to navigate through the Western Conference Finals to get to the NBA Finals. Oh, by the way, they still daily shine metaphorical rings that belong to the Texas Rangers,
who are in town tomorrow, by the way.
Oh, the champ! So that's great.
Yeah.
So now, just to be that showy and bring a little more champ cred to town. Here comes that Adolis Garcia, Corey Seager, and my main man, Nathaniel Lowe.
Yeah, a lot of spittoons being added to bars and restaurants in the downtown area with all those Texas fans in the midst.
And thank heavens that market has the counterfeit Cowboys.
I always love that one.
To even the ledger. All right, now we're back tomorrow for the Friday football/front court feast. And there will be a respectful request made to the Minnesota Timberwolves tomorrow. If you lose, let's not lose with people lobbing to people for bad business dunks. The lobs and the dunks uncovered, just bad for business. It just looks like everything's unorganized and somebody lost their jock in the corner and somebody couldn't find this guy. So let's start there and just do what we do.
Let's lob on them. Let's start the way they started Game 6, intentionally getting Rudy in the mix. Stone hands, my bleep. We're shoving it down your throat.
Yeah.
Minute freaking 1. Conley to Rudy to net.
And let's call it Lob City. Lob City up in this thing.
I think that's new. We innovated 9 to noon today. I love it.
Man, it might have been an old Portland Trailblazers bit, but that's okay.
Damn it.
Let's lob like Clyde Drexler lobbing it to Bill Walton. Thank you very much for listening. I'm Paul Allen, back with you tomorrow. Thank you for choosing to listen to us because we serve you. And here comes Eric Nordquist, erstwhile Big Daddy Khan, to put a wrap on the show.
And thanks to Casey's for sponsoring the 9 to noon show wraps. Elite pizza, food and fuel deals with rewards. Casey's is the best. Stop into one today. It's a game one, game day. Wolves, roofs, fist pumping. Basements and bars and watch parties jumping. Only to watch your favorite team chasing the score. Home court advantage, man, they've lost 3 of their last 4. Just need more from main man Ant. Gets a little passive at times, hey. But we can't afford that from one of the young stars in the league. Can we just write off the night to some minor fatigue? We live and die on each one of these games. If it goes the wrong way, well, we go up in flames. There's a lot of weeping and gnashing of teeth, though. Defense shakier than a short putt from Jordan Spieth, though. Got Double T teaching us ball, showing us how to run and attack picks in the hall. PA had an oopsie in the bathroom stall. He's on his way to buy some new pants at the mall.
Podcast today's Paul Allen Show, or listen back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.